Most people come to Paris with a checklist. Eiffel Tower, Louvre, croissant, done. And that's exactly why most people leave without ever really experiencing the city. Paris isn't a place you conquer. It's a place you settle into. It's layered, it's emotional, it rewards patience and punishes rushing. And if you approach it the right way, it changes you a little. Here are 10 experiences, not just attractions, that will completely transform how you see Paris. 1. Eiffel Tower. Experience it at the right time. Everyone thinks they know the Eiffel Tower. You've seen it in movies, postcards, Instagram reels, travel ads. It almost feels too familiar before you even get there, and that's why so many people mess this up. They show up at 1 p.m., middle of the day, long lines, harsh lighting, crowds everywhere. Street vendors aggressively selling souvenirs. You stand underneath it, take a quick photo, feel slightly underwhelmed, and leave. Wrong approach. If you want the Eiffel Tower to actually hit you emotionally, timing is everything. Go early. I'm talking sunrise early, when the city is quiet, when the light is soft, when there's space to stand still and actually look at it. From Trocadero, you'll see it framed perfectly, glowing in gold tones as the sun rises behind the city. That's when it feels cinematic. Then there's nighttime. Every hour after sunset, the tower sparkles for 5 minutes. And yes, it's touristy, and yes, everyone films it. But when those lights start shimmering against the dark Paris sky, something about it just works. It feels celebratory, almost surreal. Now, should you go up? If it's your first time, yes, at least once, but book ahead. And understand that the magic isn't just the height, it's the perspective. Seeing Paris stretch out in every direction, realizing how uniform and elegant the city feels from above. But here's the real secret. Some of the best Eiffel Tower moments happen when you're not trying to do it. Walking along the Seine and suddenly seeing it appear between buildings. Catching it lit up from a random street corner. Watching it flicker in the distance while sitting at a cafe. That's when it stops being a monument and starts being part of your memory of Paris. 2. Louvre Museum. Don't try to win. The Louvre is overwhelming, not big, overwhelming. Over 35,000 works of art on display. Miles of galleries. Entire civilizations housed under one roof. And most people try to beat it. They rush, they power walk, they zigzag across departments, chasing famous pieces. And by hour 2, they're exhausted, overstimulated, and barely remembering what they've seen. The Louvre is not a competition. It's slow burn. First, accept that you will not see everything, not even close. Even if you spent 3 full days here, you'd barely scratch the surface. So pick a theme. Maybe you're fascinated by ancient Egypt. Maybe you love Renaissance painting. Maybe you're curious about Greek sculpture. Choose one section and commit to it. Let yourself move slowly. Read the plaques, notice the details. Yes, go see the Mona Lisa. It's iconic for a reason, but don't let the crowd around her define your experience. Step back, observe the room, then leave and find something quieter. Some of the most powerful pieces in the Louvre are in near-empty galleries, massive paintings you can stand in front of alone, sculptures that feel almost alive when you circle around them. And then there's the building itself, the ceilings, the staircases, the light filtering through tall windows. The contrast between the historic palace and the modern glass pyramid entrance. The Louvre isn't about checking off masterpieces. It's about feeling small in the presence of centuries of human creativity. If you do it right, you leave inspired, not exhausted. 3. Sacré-Cœur and Montmartre. Slow down above the city. Montmartre feels like a different world. You climb higher and higher, and suddenly the noise of the city softens. The streets narrow, the buildings feel older, the pace slows down. At the top sits Sacré-Cœur, bright white against the sky, almost glowing in sunlight. Most tourists rush up the steps, take a panoramic photo, and leave, but that misses the point. Sit on the steps for a while. Watch street musicians set up. Listen to conversations in 5 different languages floating through the air. See the city stretch endlessly below you. Inside the basilica, it's quiet and peaceful, no photos allowed, which forces you to actually look. The mosaics, the arches, the symmetry, it's a pause button. But Montmartre isn't just Sacré-Cœur. Walk away from the crowded main square, turn down random streets. You'll find ivy-covered houses, tiny art studios, bakeries that smell unreal. You'll notice how village-like it feels, even though you're still in Paris. Historically, this is where artists lived, where creativity thrived because rents were cheap and inspiration was everywhere. That energy still lingers. Come back after sunset if you can. The crowds thin out. The cobblestone streets glow under warm streetlights. It feels cinematic in a quieter way. Montmartre isn't about ticking off a landmark, it's about atmosphere. And if you give it time, it gives you one of the most intimate versions of Paris. 4. Seine. See Paris from the water and beside it. The Seine isn't just a river cutting through Paris. It's the spine of the city. Everything flows around it. History, architecture, daily life. Most visitors book a 1-hour boat cruise, sit in the middle row, take a few photos, and call it done. And honestly, a cruise is worth doing at least once. Seeing landmarks like the Notre Dame de Paris and the Eiffel Tower glide by from the water gives you a completely different perspective. The city feels cohesive, grand, cinematic. But the real magic of the Seine happens on foot. Walk along the lower riverbanks in the late afternoon. The light reflects off the water in soft gold tones. Couples sit with wine and baguettes. Groups of friends gather with music playing softly from portable speakers. Street performers appear and disappear. It feels spontaneous and alive. Cross Pont Alexander III around sunset. The ornate lamps, the gilded statues, the symmetry. It's one of the most beautiful bridges in Europe. From the center, look down the river in both directions. This is the Paris you imagine before you arrive. There are also the bouquinistes, the historic green bookstalls lining the riverbanks. They've been here for centuries, selling vintage books, art prints, old postcards. Even if you don't buy anything, browsing them feels timeless. And here's something most people miss. Paris changes energy by the river. It relaxes. The traffic noise fades. The city feels breathable. Come back at night. The reflections double. The monuments glow. The Eiffel Tower sparkles in the distance. The bridges light up one by one. The Seine isn't just something to photograph. It's where you feel Paris settle into itself. If you want to understand the rhythm of the city, spend time here. Not rushing, not scheduling, just walking, sitting, observing. That's when it clicks. 5. Musée d'Orsay, the museum that feels human. If the Louvre feels vast and imperial, the Musée d'Orsay feels intimate and emotional. Housed in a former Beaux-Arts railway station, the building alone is worth the visit. High-arched ceilings, massive iron framework, sunlight pouring through enormous windows, and that famous giant clock overlooking the city, one of the most underrated views in Paris. But what makes this museum special isn't just the architecture, it's the art. This is where Impressionism lives. Monet, Van Gogh, Degas, Renoir. Artists who didn't just paint what they saw, they painted how it felt. You can see the shift from rigid classical tradition to something more personal, more experimental, more emotional. And unlike the Louvre, the Musée d'Orsay is manageable. You can realistically experience it in 3 hours without feeling overwhelmed. Start on the top floor where many of the Impressionist masterpieces are displayed. Let yourself stand in front of a Monet landscape and actually look at the brushstrokes. Step close, then step back. Notice how light seems to vibrate on the canvas. Van Gogh's work hits differently in person. The texture, the intensity, the color choices, it feels alive. Then explore the lower levels. Sculptures, Art Nouveau furniture, decorative arts. The museum feels curated rather than endless. There's space to breathe, and that's the key difference. The Musée d'Orsay doesn't feel like a challenge. It feels like an experience. When you leave, you don't feel drained. You feel inspired, slightly softer, maybe even more observant of light and color as you step back into the streets of Paris. Sometimes smaller is more powerful. 6. Le Marais, where old Paris meets modern energy. Le Marais is layered. Medieval streets, aristocratic mansions, trendy boutiques, Jewish bakeries. Contemporary art galleries. It's one of the few neighborhoods that truly blends centuries of history with modern creative culture. Start at Place de Vosges, perfect symmetry. Red brick facades, archways framing the square. Sit on the grass if it's sunny, watch locals read, picnic, talk. Then wander. Don't navigate with purpose. Le Marais rewards randomness. You'll find hidden courtyards behind heavy wooden doors, small independent fashion stores, vintage shops, concept bookstores, cafes where locals sit for hours without checking their phones. This is also one of the best areas for food that isn't aggressively touristy. There's incredible falafel, pastries, specialty chocolate shops. It feels authentic without trying too hard. And then there's the cultural layer. Le Marais has long been the heart of Paris' Jewish community and is also a central hub for LGBTQ+ culture. Pop into smaller museums if you want something quieter, like the Musée Carnavalet, which explores the history of Paris itself and is often overlooked by visitors. If you want to see how Paris lives, not just how it poses, spend time here. 7. Arc de Triomphe, the view that changes everything. From street level, the Arc de Triomphe is impressive, massive, symmetrical, historic. But from the top, transformational. Climbing it feels symbolic. A slow spiral staircase upward, and when you emerge onto the rooftop terrace, Paris unfolds in perfect geometry. 12 grand avenues radiate outward like a star. Cars swirl endlessly in the chaotic roundabout below. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower rises. The city feels deliberate, designed, balanced. This is when you understand Haussmann's vision. The wide boulevards, the uniform facades, the order hidden within chaos. Go right before sunset. The light turns warm, the buildings glow, the sky shifts from blue to gold to pink. And as darkness falls, the city lights flicker on one by one. Unlike the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe gives you perspective with context. You're high enough to see patterns, but not so high that the city feels abstract. There's also history here. Beneath the arch lies the tomb of the unknown soldier. The monument honors those who fought and died for France. It's not just a viewpoint, it carries weight. Stay long enough to watch the Eiffel Tower sparkle from across the skyline. From up here, Paris feels intentional, and you feel like you're inside it, not just visiting. 8. Parisian markets, where the city actually eats. If you really want to understand Paris, stop looking at monuments and start looking at food. Not restaurant menus in tourist zones, not overpriced brasseries with laminated photos outside. Markets. Paris has open-air and covered markets scattered across nearly every arrondissement, and they are where daily life unfolds. Vendors who've been there for decades, locals who know exactly which cheese stand to trust. Conversations that feel more like community than commerce. One of the most famous is Marché des Enfants Rouges, the oldest covered market in the city, dating back to the 1600s. It's compact but vibrant. Moroccan tagines steaming in one corner, fresh pasta in another, crepes being flipped in real time. You can build a full international meal within 10 steps. But don't stop at one. Visit a neighborhood market in the morning, especially on a weekend. You'll see tables overflowing with seasonal produce arranged like art, bright strawberries in spring, heirloom tomatoes in summer, mushrooms and figs in fall. Cheese vendors will let you taste before you buy. Bakers will wrap still warm baguettes in paper. Fishmongers call out daily specials. And here's the important part. This is normal life in Paris. People shop fresh, frequently, intentionally. Buy a few things: bread, cheese, fruit, maybe a bottle of wine, and create your own picnic. Take to the Seine, a park, a quiet square. That simple act feels more Parisian than any five-star dinner reservation. Markets strip away the performance of tourism. They show you rhythm, seasonality, local habits. You'll leave with more than groceries. You'll leave with a clearer sense of how the city sustains itself. And once you've experienced that, restaurant dining feels different, more contextual, more meaningful. Paris isn't just fine dining, it's everyday excellence. Palace of Versailles, understanding power and excess. Versailles isn't subtle, it's gold, mirrors, marble, Symmetry pushed to theatrical extremes. About an hour outside Paris, the Palace of Versailles was designed to display absolute monarchy at its peak. And when you walk through it, you feel that message immediately. The Hall of Mirrors alone is overwhelming. Sunlight pours through tall arched windows and reflects infinitely across chandeliers and gilded surfaces. It's beautiful, but also strategic. It was meant to intimidate, to impress foreign dignitaries, to reinforce power. Most visitors shuffle through the main palace rooms shoulder to shoulder, snap photos, and leave thinking, okay, that was grand, but Versailles is much bigger than the palace interior. The gardens are where the scale truly reveals itself, geometric lawns stretching endlessly, sculptures placed with mathematical precision, fountains choreographed to music during certain seasons. Rent a bike or a small golf cart and explore beyond the main axis. Walk toward the Grand Trianon and Petit Trianon, smaller residences that feel more personal and less overwhelming. Go early to avoid peak crowds. Give yourself half a day at least. Pack water. Take breaks in the gardens. Versailles isn't about rushing room to room. It's about absorbing scale. 10. Café culture. Master the art of doing nothing. This might be the most important one, because if you skip this, you miss the soul of Paris. Parisian cafes aren't just places to grab coffee. They're stages, observatories, extensions of the street. Find a cafe with outdoor seating. Order something simple: espresso, wine, sparkling water. Sit facing outward toward the street. That's key. Parisians don't sit facing each other as much as they face the world. And then, stay. Don't rush. Don't scroll endlessly. Don't treat it like a pit stop. Watch people walk by. Notice how they dress, how they carry themselves. Observe the pace of conversation, the rhythm of the neighborhood. You'll start noticing details you would have missed while running between attractions. The way afternoon light hits balconies, the sound of cutlery against porcelain, the subtle choreography of waiters weaving between tables. Time stretches here. This is what people misunderstand about Paris. It's not a productivity city. It doesn't reward speed, it rewards presence. You might sit for 45 minutes and technically do nothing, but mentally, you absorb everything. And suddenly, the trip feels less like tourism and more like participation. That's when Paris shifts from being impressive to being intimate. So there you have it, 10 experiences, done slowly, intentionally, deeply, that will change how you see Paris. Yes, it can be crowded. Yes, it can be expensive. Yes, it can test your patience. But if you approach it with curiosity instead of urgency, Paris reveals itself layer by layer. Walk more than you take the metro. Book ahead when necessary. Avoid restaurants with aggressive hosts outside. Wake up early at least once. Stay out late at least once. And most importantly, leave space for the unplanned, because Paris isn't meant to be conquered. It's meant to be lived, even if only for a few days.